The sensation begins not with a whisper of divinity, but with the wet, sickening crunch of a sensory gear tooth snapping within the parietal lobe. You imagine yourself ascending, a silver cord tethering your luminous essence to the heavy, rotting clay of your bed, yet this is a biological lie, a mere glitch in the loom of consciousness. We are bound to our meat by more than just gravity. We are shackled by the temporoparietal junction, that frantic cartographer tasked with stitching here to now. When the blood thins or the synapses misfire, the cartographer faints, and the map of self dissolves into a terrifying vertigo. You look down and see your own cooling vessel, a pale mannequin of bone and stagnant fluids, while you hover near the ceiling like a moth drawn to a dying candle. It is a profound betrayal of the senses, a phantom limb syndrome of the entire soul. The Victorian mystics called it the astral body, a poetic shroud for what we now know to be a failure of sensory integration. There is no celestial plane, only the dark, internal corridor of a brain trying to find its way back into its cage. Listen closely to the static in your ears. That is the sound of your biology desperately trying to reboot the illusion of existence before the void claims the coordinates. Welcome to the rupture. To understand the exit, one must understand the anchor. The brain is an arrogant architect, constructing a three-dimensional model of the world within a dark, wet box of bone. Its most delicate masterpiece is the sense of presence, the you that resides behind your eyes. This illusion relies on a constant, frantic dialogue between the vestibular system, which senses balance, and the visual cortex. When this dialogue is silenced by trauma, electrical stimulation, or the creeping onset of sleep paralysis, the architect panics. The temporoparietal junction, failing to integrate these conflicting signals, simply gives up. It ejects the observer from the observed, creating a neurological schism that feels like liberation, but is actually a catastrophic data error. In this state, the mind cannot reconcile the body's weight with the inner ear's scream of movement. The result is a dislocation of the ego. You are no longer the occupant of the meat, you are a drifting perspective, an unreliable narrator lost in its own malfunctioning theater. The ancients mistook this vertigo for the spirit's voyage, but there is no wind in these sails, only the static of misfiring synapses. We are prisoners of a biological map that, when torn, offers a glimpse of a sky that does not exist. The soul is merely the name we give to a coherent signal. In the flickering light of the induction coil, the boundary between the self and the void becomes porous. It is here, in the laboratory of the damaged mind, that we encounter the shadow person, that persistent, chilling sense that another entity stands just behind the shoulder. This is not a haunting from the beyond, but a recursive loop of the internal map. When the brain fails to locate the physical self, it projects a duplicate into the peripheral gloom. We call it heutoscopy, a term far too sterile for the visceral horror of meeting one's own gaze from across the room. Consider the surgeon's electrode touching the right angular gyrus. With a single spark, the patient is flung to the ceiling, a silent witness to their own evisceration. This is the biological reality of the out-of-body experience, a localized electrical storm in a gray sky. We are haunted not by spirits, but by the echoes of our own sensory input. The astral plane is merely the scrap heap of discarded data, the place where the brain stores the fragments of a shattered perspective. We are the architects of our own hauntings, trapped in a cycle of neurological ghosts born from the friction of a failing organism. The glitch is not a window to another world, it is the cracking of the glass in this one. The flight concludes not in a celestial meadow, but in the damp silence of a cold, iron drawer. This is the ultimate twist of our neural architecture. The out-of-body experience is the brain's final, desperate sedative. As the oxygen leaves the tissue and the electrical circuits flicker towards zero, the mind fabricates a grand narrative of escape to mask the visceral terror of cessation. It is a mercy of the biology, a beautiful, gilded lie told by a dying narrator. You are not floating toward a divine light. You are simply witnessing the last sparks of a short-circuiting battery before the permanent dark. We cling to the astral myth because the alternative, that our consciousness is a fragile byproduct of wet chemistry, is too heavy a burden for the ego to carry. But here, upon the anatomist's cold stone table, we embrace the rot. We see the gears for what they are: rusting, fragile, and utterly temporary. The rupture is final, and the cartographer has finally put down his broken pen. There is no elsewhere. There is only the here, and then the nothingness. If you find a strange comfort in these dark dissections, I invite you to bind your digital essence to this archive. Like this record, subscribe to the Ledger of the Dune, and let us continue this morbid study together. The specimen is cold. The lanterns are dim. Welcome to the moral coil.